Welcome back to In with Denoux.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to In with Denoux featuring Jordan Shannon. Today we are having Palate Cleanser number 2. And it's going to be an exciting one because we are going to go through our top 5 with 2 OLIs, which means outside looking in. So really our top 7 favorite television shows. So we're excited about it. We're going to go back and forth with it. So I'll do one, then Jordan will do one. And we'd love in the comments for you to tell us your top 5 of your favorite shows. It can be comedies, it can be dramas, it can be a mixture of both. So we're going to do a mixture of both. We thought about doing, just comedies and then just drama, but we're just going to combine them. So we hope that you guys enjoy listening along. We'd love to hear what y'all's favorites are as well. So Jordan, you ready to go?
Let's go. I got my list and everything. I'm ready.
Yeah, I had to write out. What's funny is I had a harder time with my OLIs, my outside looking in, than my actual top 5. My top 5 I knew like right away. So I feel like as we're talking, I'm gonna start thinking of shows that I'm like, oh no, I should have done that one. But okay, so we're gonna go ahead and jump in, and I'll start with my number 1 OLI, outside looking in. So that for me is gonna be Better Call Saul.
Ooh.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
I'm working through that one right now. I just started. I
Okay.
finished Breaking Bad recently, and so yeah.
Okay. So my reasoning is it's funny because I really like Breaking Bad as well. But when Better Call Saul came out, I actually enjoyed it more than Breaking Bad. Like, I think Breaking Bad is so groundbreaking and different, and it was one of those shows where I like hated every character, but you had to see how it ended. Like, I think we talked about this actually when I was in Seattle, but like by the end, it was like the reason I think the show is so good, Breaking Bad, is that it's one of the only shows where you don't know who's going to come out on top.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like I had to finish. But when I watched Better Call Saul, it wasn't as like crazy or whatever, but I thought it was more like masterful. Like, I thought like the way they went about the characters and the storytelling, like it wasn't as crazy, but I just thought it was more like complex, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
What I think I like about Breaking Bad, and maybe it's more also hating about it too, is just like, you see this premise of like, Walt obviously being, sick and then going into meth, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
just feels like it just continues to get worse and worse. Like the problem just gets bigger and
Yeah.
gets bigger. And you're like, you just get to a point where you're like, okay, how are they going to resolve this? And then you're like, are they going to resolve this? So that aspect of like hating the
Hmm.
characters or hating their decisions or seeing how many folks he takes down, it's just like, man, like,
Yeah.
gosh, this is such a depressing tragedy, but it's also dope storytelling at the same time. Like, it kind
Yeah.
of hooks you in because you're like, okay, I want to see how they get out of this, like, how do they get out of
Right.
this issue that he set them up in?
Yeah, it's crazy because there's so many like similarities between Walt and between Saul's character, and I'm blanking on
Mm,
his name before he becomes Saul now. But anyways,
Jimmy, right?
Jimmy. So it's crazy because like Walt, his character kind of deteriorates because of his pride, like, right? Like, he just wants to be like this powerful, emperor kind of thing, basically. And with Jimmy, it's more so like he feels like he's always overlooked, and so it's like he feels inferior almost, but it both like erodes their character. So it's
Mhm.
very different reasons, but it's just eroding who they are slowly throughout the show. So yeah, so that's my first OLI, Better Call Saul. What about you, man?
Man,
What's your first OLI?
man, this was a hard one, man. But I gotta go with Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Okay. I
Have you
I
seen
know
it?
what it is, but I haven't seen it. I kind of know the premise, but I haven't seen it.
Bro, this is one of the most underrated shows out there. It is
Mm.
hysterical. Larry David, and it's like if you're a fan of like some other shows that'll come up on our list, but like shows that are on like NBC, if you're a fan of those, then you'd be a fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry
Mm.
David plays basically a caricature of himself, right? And
Okay.
like he found Seinfeld, like he's one of the
Yep.
creators of Seinfeld, and he just basically plays himself in Hollywood, having connections to all of these wealthy and famous people. But he is just being ridiculous in terms of just
Yeah.
asking for too many things or asking for exceptions or just really being obnoxious. It is really really funny. Like I discovered it. My brother actually introduced it to me like
Okay.
back in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. So when we were in Florida at the time, he was like, Jordan, have you seen Curb? I'm like, and that's actually how I came to love a lot of shows that I like too.
Yeah.
But he's like, "Have you seen Curb?" And I was like, "Nah, man." I was like, and he told me about. I was like, "I don't know if I like this." And then and then what I started watching it, and I was like, "Okay, this is ridiculous." So to give an example, he one of his best friends, his dad died, and they live in L.A. It's based in L.A.
Mm,
And the best friend, like they're all Dodgers fans, and the best
got you.
friend and his dad had Dodgers tickets. Well, and that Dodger, and so for a game that was coming up, right after his dad died, Larry goes up to him and said, "Hey, what you gonna do with that Dodgers ticket?" Like really wanted to ask him for it, and he's like, Larry, my dad just died. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet." He's like, "Okay, well, the game's tomorrow, so you don't want those tickets to go to waste or anything. So just so you know, I'm available if you ever want to." And then and then the guy's like, "No, Larry, don't worry. Like the ticket is spoken for. I'll figure something out. Don't you worry."
Mm,
So Larry decides to find but Larry really wants to go to this game. So he decides to like buy tickets off of scalpers. And
hmm.
and he's like on one side of LA. He has to get to downtown, right? And he wants to take the HOV lane, but he doesn't have a person with him. So he
Mm.
drives down the street, picks up a hooker, and drive so that he can take the HOV lane to get to the stadium. And he ends up having to give the hooker like his extra ticket that he bought from the scalper. So he's
Oh
taking her
God.
to the baseball game. And then he sees his best friend sitting in his seats,
Hmm.
like that he bought that he has with his dad. And so Larry tries to confront him, and the seats are good. So Larry tries to confront him. He's like, "Hey, can I sit there?" He's like, "No, this is my dad's seat. This is a memorial seat right now." Like, and Larry's like, "Why can't you just let me sit there?" And he just goes back and forth, and it's so ridiculous. But
That's
like,
funny.
it's just stuff like that just continues. It's a snowball. It's a
Yeah.
snowball effect that he just doesn't. He always starts the arguments. He always starts the issues, and it never gets resolved, or it gets resolved in a very awkward way. So man, I highly recommend Curb. It's
I'll have to
very
check it
similar to
out.
some of the shows that will probably come up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to check it out. Didn't it end recently? Or like
Yeah,
it like
it ended.
rebooted or something?
No, like it ended, and it was weird because it was released on like a hiatus. Like it was released on like in between like 2 to 3 years at a time, like seasons,
Okay.
kind of like what they do with shows now, right?
Yeah.
It's gone like 12 seasons, and it just ended, I think 2023, 2024, something like
Okay.
that.
That's what I was wondering because with these like OLIs, the outside looking in, the first two that we're doing before we get to our actual top five, I was just telling Jordan before we hopped on that I got the idea from the Dan Lebitard show, which is like a sports show that I watch, and they do a lot of top fives and they do like two or three OLIs and then they get into their top five. And they did one for Curb Your Enthusiasm because they like a lot of the people on his show, they have like 8 different like personalities on the show, that talk and stuff. And they were talking about, they either did a top five or they were just talking about Curb Your Enthusiasm because a lot of them watch it. And they had said on the show, because like, I haven't seen it, but on the show they had said that it ended like recently. So that's why I asked the
Mhm.
question, because I was like,
Yeah,
oh, they were
yeah,
talking about this show. So, okay.
it's
So
good. It's
we
good. Check
have,
it out.
I'll have to check it out. So, okay, my first OLI is Better Call Saul. Jordan's first OLI is Curb Your Enthusiasm. So, okay, so my second OLI, which this was my hardest choice of the whole list, was my second OLI. So, my second outside looking in is Dexter.
Oh.
And I know you're watching Dexter right now because when I was there a few weeks ago, you were watching a couple episodes.
Mhm.
So, Dexter. Okay, I think the reason why I chose it because there was so many shows that could go in this slot, like right before the top five. I think because they're doing so much with it now, like they're doing reboots and things that I'm just like, it's just on my mind. And so actually the newest reboot starts on, I think, Friday or Saturday on the 11th of this month. So, um, but yeah, I think it's just like the most wild concept for a show. And in some ways it's like super dark. So like I was like, I felt a little weird like putting this one on my list, but it's just so interesting, like the dilemmas that he gets in and his code. And it's like at first you're like, you know, as like a watcher, you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. Then you're like, wait, no, this is horrible. Like he's a horrible person. But it's just so interesting. And they do have some really good characters, like side characters. And then the way that they're developing the story around the original story, I think is really good. Like they did an original reboot that was like New Blood or whatever, that was like 10 years after the original. And it was just one season. And that was okay. It wasn't great. But then they did the prequel, where, you know, it showed how Original Sin, like how he got started. And I thought the cast that they picked was like really, really good. Like they portrayed those characters really well. And they're kind of merging the prequel with the one that's coming out next week or this week, called Resurrection, you know? So, and so I don't want to give it away for you because I know you're watching it right now, but yeah, I think that show is super, super good. And I think the middle seasons, like it's either 3 and 4 or 4 and 5 are just like so good. Like the villains that they have for those seasons are really good. So yeah, so that's my second OLI is Dexter.
Man, Dexter's a good one too, and I'm mad that Netflix just took it off. I'm sure they got like some deal with, because it's on Paramount. It's on Paramount Plus. So I have to switch over to like continue watching it. But that premise is crazy. Like, right? Like just this
It really is.
guy who has like the propensity towards serial killing, right? And then just, you know, to satisfy those urges, kills bad guys. It's like, ethically, and we're like, okay, well, these people were murderers and ripped off people, but they're like, Dexter is still killing them, right? Like a vigilante serial, like, you know. So but the way with doing so many things around like these new reboots and stuff, I think it just speaks to how powerful the original was, right? Like how dope the original series was. And so it definitely is something worth just checking out. And if you like crime scene type of storytelling, like that's definitely a good one.
Yeah, for sure.
So getting a little lighter, but definitely related to my first OLI. My second OLI is The Office.
Wow, really? Not in your top 5?
Yeah. I debated so much. I debated so much about putting it in my top 5. It's great. Like The Office, it was like the number one show during COVID, right? Like everybody was like that was going on Netflix and watching it, which is crazy because I remember watching those episodes premiere like live, right? It's so good, and it's related to Curb, right? Like in the sense of like just the awkward funny, like in terms of like just Michael Scott. You can substitute Larry David for Michael Scott, and you know you basically have a very similar like premise. I even when I was putting The Office down, like the first scene that came to mind, and I love this scene, but it had me crying, is when he found out he was wearing a woman's suit. And, and so like Daryl's trying to negotiate a new contract or a new salary. And so like Michael's like trying to like tell him like, hey, we just don't have the money in the budget. And Daryl's like, are you wearing lady clothes? And Michael's like, I do not wear lady clothes. And Daryl's like, no, you're wearing lady clothes. Those are lady pants. And he said, these are not lady pants. This is a power suit. Daryl's like, that's a woman's suit. And then everybody found out.
How there's no pockets on the back.
No pockets on the back. Like the maker is mysterious. MISS.
Yeah. Oh gosh, The Office.
That is good. That is good writing. That is great writing. Barton, I was like, Office, but it was hard, man. It was hard putting this on the outside looking in because like we quote it all the time.
Yeah.
But there were just so many other shows that came up that I'm like, I gotta. My
That's
top five
like
is the top five. Yeah.
that's like that's like the shocker of the episode so far, because I thought for sure The Office was gonna be in your top five. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
so my most underrated line in The Office, or like little joke, is during the period when Idris Elba's in the show and Michael Scott puts his 2 weeks notice in, right? So there's this scene, it's like it cuts, it's like right at the beginning of the scene. So there's no context, right? You just know that Michael is like looking for another job. And so the camera is on Jim at his desk, and Jim's desk is the closest one to Michael's office. And Michael's office door is open, and all of a sudden you just hear from inside Michael's office, you just hear rah, rah, rah. And Jim's like, it's monster.com. Because like monster.com's for like looking for jobs. So the joke is that he clearly put in monsters.com. So there's just like roars and stuff. I've watched that with so many people that like didn't understand the joke, but I crack up so hard every time. That's like one of my favorite jokes in the whole show. Jim just casually, it's monster.com. Oh, The Office.
There are so many little things like that throughout the series that I'm just like, oh my goodness, this show is really funny.
Yeah.
And I gotta give it a rewatch because it's been a while since I was able to watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm watching it now. So something that's really nice. So I have a YouTube TV, and something that's really nice is because a lot of the shows that I like, are on specific streaming services, and I'm like, I'm not gonna have every single streaming service, especially ones where it's like I only want it for that one show. But what's something that's really nice about YouTube TV is you can set it up to record whenever an episode of a TV show comes on. It will like automatically record like The Office or whatever show you put in, and it puts it in order. So it's literally like if you go on YouTube TV, it's literally like watching it on a streaming service, except obviously it has commercials, but you can just fast forward through the commercials. But it literally will just you go to the show and it has it set up. So now like every episode of The Office is recorded on there. So I can start at episode 1 and it will just automatically go to episode 2, 3. So it's literally like watching it on a streaming service just with commercials,
Oh, that's dope.
But you can fast forward the commercials because they're all recorded. So YouTube TV is, and there's no storage, like it's unlimited storage, so you can like record as much as you want.
That's better than DVR back in the day. DVR back in the day had like storage limit.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I'm writing yours down too, just so when I go back through the list I can. Okay, so my OLI 1, Better Call Saul. Jordan's OLI 1, Curb Your Enthusiasm. My OLI number 2 is Dexter, and Jordan's OLI, the shocker of the list so far, is The Office. So now we jump into our top 5 favorite shows. We're at 20 minutes, so we'll start moving through these. So my number 5 is The Good Place.
Ooh, okay. I've seen The Good Place. Yeah.
So The Good Place. So funny enough, The Good Place was suggested to me when I was living in Gainesville. It was my last year in Gainesville, because I think it started in like 2017, 2016, somewhere around there. And it went on for 5 seasons, I believe, 4 or 5 seasons. And Emily's son actually was the one that introduced it to me. So shout out Emily. And when she was when she was explaining it to me, I was like, I don't know about this show, but I was like, I'll check it out. And it was like, I was like, this show is hilarious, like so funny. Yeah. And you said you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it.
Okay, so
it's really good. It's hilarious.
For anyone that's listening that hasn't seen it, I won't like ruin anything, but it's the only comedy show that I can think of where there's like twists, like these major like shocking things that happen. Because usually comedy, it's just laughs, like there's storylines for sure in comedies, like, but it's usually like love interests and things like that. People move away, like, whatever. But not like twists and turns like you would see in a drama show or something like that. But that was the first comedy where I was like, wow, they like incorporated some of that stuff. And I think like Ted Danson, the cast is like one of the
Danson
best
is
casts.
hysterical. He is
Man,
hysterical in that role.
every person that they cast was like so perfect. But Kristen Bell and Ted
Yeah, my
Danson are
favorite is
like,
Chidi.
yeah,
Chidi
yeah.
is my
So
favorite.
Chidi actually might be my favorite as well. So low key, like, so I just think it's so funny. I think, you know how they like a lot of characters will have like ongoing little jokes or things that they say. For
Yeah.
Chidi, I just love when like something happens and he's like, "What?" Like, like literally, it doesn't sound funny, but when the way he says it is, he's just like, "Wait, what?" Like,
Wait, what?
you know, I think about like when
He said, you know that's
Jason and
wrong. You know that's
Janet
worse, right? That's absolutely worse.
like when Jason and Janet get married and he keeps like there's other things happening and then he keeps looking over like at Jason and Janet and he's like, "What? Like what is happening?" But yeah, his lines are so funny. But yeah, that show is hilarious. And it honestly was like I think that they had very good self-awareness of when to end that show
Yes.
because
Yeah. They
it
didn't
did get to a
overrun it.
point. Yeah, because it like unlike some other shows, like certain comedies, like for instance, The Office. Like The Office, like especially if Steve Carell stayed, they could have kept going with that for a long time, right? Or like
Right.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, like when I know went on for a long time. Um, but with that one, because of the storyline, it had a shelf life where it was like there's not much more you can do with this show, and they
Yeah.
ended it at the perfect time because it was like there's not much more they could have done with that
Yeah.
storyline.
And they had a
Um,
major plot point that was like for the good place that is like it has to come to a conclusion.
yeah,
You have to
yep,
find a way to make this conclusion really, really stick.
yep. So to my point earlier about how like they have these twists and turns and stuff, I think by doing that they did give it a shorter shelf life than if it was just like another comedy, you know.
True.
But I think
Yeah.
it was totally worth it though, in my opinion, because it was very different than most comedies. The actors were great, and they were able to keep the other thing about being short is you're able to keep the whole cast without losing someone. Like The Office, you know, they lose the most important character in the entire
Yeah.
show, you know,
Yeah.
because of how long it went. Like he signed up for X amount of seasons, I think 5 seasons or whatever,
Seven. He signed up for
or
seven. He
or
signed
oh,
up for
signed up
seven
for
seasons,
7,
and he
and
stayed
then it
seven.
went 9.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think like they did a really good job of like completing the story because it ended really well. It didn't feel rushed. All the major characters stayed, and even the main like side characters like all stayed. It had a really good ending. It felt like satisfying. Like the ending felt satisfying, and whatnot. And it's just hilarious. So yeah, so that's my number 5, The Good Place.
Yeah, I think The Good Place is one of the few comedies that had like a series ending, series finale where it's like, that's the right way to end it, even though
Yeah,
like it kind of left me wanting more. And I feel like it left a lot of folks
sure, sure.
wanting more. All right, so detouring away from comedy, my fifth one is
Hmm.
gonna probably be another shocker, and that is The Last of Us. So,
Mm.
so I
Oh,
go with The
already?
Last of Us already. Because it's very hard to transfer a video game into TV or movies. It's
That's
just
true.
very, very hard. I mean, prior to this adaptation, the best I think unequivocally the best I think the best video game adaptation hands down is the 1995 Mortal Kombat, like bar none.
Mm.
But
Okay.
like it's really hard to transfer video games into TV shows or movies just because
Hmm.
people have different ways of how they play games and how they approach it and strategies and just conceptualize the characters. But this is the one that I can say is the best video game adaptation that was just
Mm.
true to the storyline, true to the plot. Like the character, like it made like watching the series made me think, oh man, it made me want to pick up and play the Last of Us video games again. Like
Yeah.
and it was exciting, it was inspiring. So obviously a dark story, like in this world where there's this cordyceps virus that's a
Yeah.
mushroom virus that takes over and kills and turns people into undead zombies, right? But it was, I mean, I just I was hooked from the first
Yeah.
episode. Just everything they did, and even some of the creative choices they made, with like trying to sell the narrative of how cordyceps could evolve. Like I think in the
Mm-hmm.
first episode they had like a talk show host interview a
Yep.
scientist in like the 60s, and he was
Yep.
talking about how fungus is the one thing he's scared of. And I was like, that's
Yeah.
so dope. That's not in the video game, but I'm like, that is so dope because that
Yeah.
create that only adds and builds it up even more. So yeah, I gotta go with Last of Us, even though it's only 2 seasons. I was like, man, this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
this is just the best video game adaptation that I've seen, and I can't think of anything that tops it. I would love if people in the chat or people in the comments see
Yeah.
some
Let
or,
us
or
know.
know of a video game adaptation that's better, but this is none is touching it right now.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it so far, and I didn't play the video games. So I will say, like, so during the pandemic, when the pandemic first started, when we were on lockdown, I bought a PlayStation because at the time I was working. I was working with. I was leading a youth ministry, and I wasn't able to, like, we weren't able to have events and stuff because we were on lockdown. So I bought a PlayStation so I could play online with some of the guys, or whatever. And when I bought the PlayStation, Last of Us was a game that came with it for free, the
Ooh.
first one. And so I actually did play it like for a little bit. I'm not big on like playing a video game that's just like the story mode, like just by myself. For whatever reason, I just, I like games where I can play online, like against like competitive type stuff instead of like storyline type stuff. I don't mind watching people play storyline stuff because I was like, oh, this is interesting. I just don't want to do it myself. So I
I get
did
that.
play the storyline for like a little bit, but I didn't get far into it. So majority of the show, because I have watched the show, the first 2 seasons. So most of it was like a surprise to me. So I couldn't confirm like how close, but what I have read is that it is, like what you said, very accurate to the storyline. And so I don't want to give it away, but the major thing in season 2, I was just like, whoa, like I was not expecting it. But obviously
Yeah,
people that
man.
played the video games, were aware that that storyline was coming.
Oh yeah,
But
that was a big
yeah,
one.
but it has been really good, and like the acting in it has been really. I mean, obviously Pedro Pascal is like so good. Like everything he's in is like so good. Um, but yeah, so I've enjoyed it a lot. And then fun fact, like just to your point of the opening scene with where they're interviewing the scientist. So that scientist, I don't know if you know what I'm going to say, but that scientist is a character in one episode of a show that will be in both of our top fives. So we'll come back to
Oh,
that.
I know what you're talking about. I know. Yep, that is.
Okay. I
I
was
know
hoping you
exactly
wouldn't
what.
think of it, but so yeah, but that will be in both our top fives. So just a
I love how
little
you
note to
already
come back to
know
that.
what show is going to be in our
Yeah.
top five.
Oh yeah.
Like
Well, I
that.
mean, I know like spoiler alert, we're gonna have the same number one episode. So okay, so just to catch us up, I'll just do our number five. So my number five was The Good Place, and Jordan's number five is The Last of Us, which is solid. That's a really good choice. So I've enjoyed it a lot so far. I don't know how many seasons they're gonna do, but the first 2 seasons have been really good. Okay, my number four is also steering away from comedy. My number four is Lost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and Lost could potentially go higher for me, but my top three is just really hard to crack. But yeah, Lost is easily my favorite like drama show of all time. And so Lost is actually the show that got me hooked on shows, like instead of movies, like watching shows. But yeah, I think it's one of the best, like almost every episode at the end you're like, "What?" Like you're just like mind blown at almost the end of almost every single episode. And I know a lot of people say that after season like 3 or 4 that it like goes downhill, and it's certainly, I mean, the peak of Lost is definitely the first like 3 seasons for sure, like just because there's just so much happening and the storylines are so great. But I think it's really good all the way through. And I also have a very different interpretation of the ending than what most people believe, which I think to me makes it better.
Mm.
or whatever. So I feel like a lot of people either didn't finish it and have an assumption about the ending, but if you really watch it, it's like not the case in my opinion.
Okay.
So, and
Well, it's
it does
interesting
get.
'cause
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I started Lost, but I've been starting so many shows like Dexter,
Yeah,
Better Call
yeah, yeah,
Saul. The Lost is on that list too. Like I have it even in my
bro.
Netflix queue because I really want to get into that. Like I've only heard
Yeah,
really good stuff. I did hear like I've heard some of the spoilers about the end, and I'm like okay, but the storyline to get there seems actually very interesting. So I'm
bro.
really, really need to just make some time for it.
To be completely honest with you, outside of my actual like number one that's on that list, on any given day, I might say Lost is like my second favorite show of all time. Like, because
Mm,
it is that good. Like, and it's actually a show that's rewatchable because there's so much happening. And the show goes on. I think it's like 8 seasons, 7 or 8 seasons, and it's back in the day when seasons were like 24 episodes. You know what I mean?
24
So there's
episodes,
like
hour
a
long.
yeah. There's a lot there. Um, but bro, the storytelling, I think so. The reason to me that kind of got me hooked, where I was like, man, this storytelling is so cool, is you are learning about these characters. So obviously, I'm sure everyone at this point knows what Lost is about, but if you don't, it's this group that crash lands on this island, and it's just you're learning about all the characters, but then there's just crazy stuff that happens on the island. I'll leave it at that. But the storytelling element that they use, which I had never really seen before in the way that they do it, is you're getting to know the characters like in present time, like on the island. But then each episode in the early stages of the show, especially the first like two, but really throughout the whole show, but very much in season one for sure, is each episode kind of focuses on one character and they do flashbacks of like present day and then before the island, present day and then before the island.
Um,
And so you're learning like why this person is the way they are, or like secrets about them, or like all this stuff. And you're just like, oh man, like it answers this question about them or that question about them. And it does that with like all the main characters, where it's like these flashbacks throughout the entire show. Um, which is super super cool. And then it goes into a bunch of different things or whatever, but it just reveals like you'll know something about this character on the island. You're like, and that's all you know about them. But then they will show something in their past, and you're like, wait, how like where's the disconnect here? And then it will reveal
yeah,
it. And I don't want to give things away, but it's just like there's just contradictory things in their past to them on the island, and you're like, what is the answer to this disconnect?
yeah,
And then it's always like, what is going
yeah,
on? And then it makes you think like, well, what else is going on if that's how this is answered? You know what I mean? So I'm trying not to
yeah.
give spoilers, but
Well,
um
Danny Cook has an
but yeah.
old joke that saying like every time I watch Lost, I'm looking off camera like what the f is that?
Yeah, literally, literally, literally.
It's like I
So
have so many more questions and not enough
yeah,
answers at this point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you definitely, like, if you miss an episode or if you are not paying attention, it is aptly named because you will be lost. Like there's so much going on. So yeah, that's my number four
That's
is
your number
Lost,
four?
and
All
you
right.
you should definitely watch it.
All
It's
right.
so good.
It's on my list. For my number four, you'll actually be surprised by this, is Parks and Rec.
I'm
Um,
actually not too surprised by that.
yeah. So, and this is one that I went back and forth on with The Office, because I'm like, man, do I like The Office more? Do I like Parks and Rec? And I think for me, it's the rewatchability personally for Parks and Rec
Hmm.
that took the cake. I think it's much more rewatchable than The Office personally. Like
Mm,
I like the characters. I think it's silly. I think Leslie is a great lead to follow. Um,
yeah,
and opposite of Michael Scott's fun to watch too. Like I love Steve Carell as Michael Scott. Like it was hysterical. But like just the relationship she's formed with Anne, and just how endearing she is to
yeah.
all the different characters like Tom, Andy, Ben
Mm,
obviously, Chris. like Ron, like it's so April, like just
Yeah.
all the characters that she's developed relationships with is so dope, and even just the interactions that she has as like the with the city council and with the Wamapoke tribe, like I
Hmm.
love how they insert just these little moments where she's able to just like try to show her personality, but also like she talks about the real history of Pawnee, right? Like
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like what they did to the natives there. So man, I love Parks and Rec. Chris Pratt's character Andy,
Yeah.
like I grew to love him more as the series went on, because at first when he first started off as Anne's boyfriend, I was like, man, this I cannot
Yeah.
wait for him to get off the show. But as the show went on, I was
Mm.
like, okay, he is lovable. This is funny.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. You like
he is great.
can't imagine that show without him. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh
can't
man.
imagine the show now without him. Yeah.
Yeah. Parks and Rec is so good, dude. Like, so for me, um, the way because I know you kind of, I think everyone kind of, is like Parks and Rec, The Office, like they compare them because obviously they have a lot of the same producers
Yeah.
and
And they
writers and
ran
things
at
like
the
that.
same time, right? Like they were
Yeah.
running at the
Yep.
same time.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And they were obviously modeling Parks and Rec off of The Office, like the camera
Mhm.
style and that type of stuff, the interview style kind of thing. So the interesting thing is, so the way I describe it is, well, actually, I won't say that, but it's one of the like interesting shows where it feels like the show doesn't even start until season 3 because you have like Ben and Chris, who are two like integral characters, aren't even in the show until the end of season 2, like going into
Yeah.
season 3, right? So they
Yeah.
have Mark's character who they wrote out, which he's the character to me that was like, you either felt how you said about Andy or Chris Pratt's character or about Mark. And I think they rightfully so chose Mark to write out of the show. Like his character was okay, but it was just kind of like bland. Like his character was just kind of bland.
It was
And
almost
the
too bland.
actor,
He relied too much on like sarcasm, like almost too
yeah,
much to the
yeah,
point where it's like you don't really care about him as much, right? He was
yeah.
funny. I
So
do think there was moments where he was funny, but yeah.
yeah, he portrayed the character super well. I think they were trying to make his character kind of like Jim from The Office,
Yeah.
but it just didn't come off the same way. And the show is so much different. Like even though they're similar, like in some ways, they're also just completely different in others. And so I think
Yeah.
they were trying, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Like maybe that wasn't their goal at all. But to me, it felt like they were trying to recreate Jim, and it's just like John Krasinski did such a great job as Jim. You just couldn't
Yeah.
recreate that, you know. Um, but the way that the interesting part is kind of what I was saying about how like it almost feel. This is how you know the show is so good. Is that it feels like the show almost doesn't even start till season, into 2, going into 3. Yeah, it's still like one of the best shows ever. And seasons 1 and 2 are still good,
And they're
but
funny.
it
They
like
are
it
funny.
elevates so much. And then something else that also just is a credit to how good the show is that they completely changed Leslie's character from season 1 to the rest of the show. I don't know if you agree
Yeah.
with that, but
Yeah.
so in season 1 they try, like kind of like what I was just saying about Mark's character with Jim. I feel like they were trying to make her like Michael Scott, because in season 1 she's kind of dumb,
Mhm.
like maybe not as dumb as like Michael Scott, but it's like she had these lines where it was like almost too dumb, right? Like I
Yeah.
think about the episode where she gets the haircut where she looks like a man, and she's like it's like hilarious, but she's not under, like,
Like
you
they
know
call this the mayor. Salvador calls this
yeah,
the mayor.
yeah, yeah, exactly. um and everyone thinks she's like dating Anne or whatever, but it's like in that
Right.
episode she's so stupid, like she's just so dumb in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
episode. And then
Yeah.
the rest of the show, she's eccentric, but she's like on it. She's like a hard worker on top of everything, like, super, super like smart, hardworking, which I think was a good pivot for sure. Because I don't think they could
And
have kept up that character.
yeah, I think
So,
to your point, like her character did seem like it was modeled on Michael. They're like in that
yeah.
first 2 seasons.
Hmm.
And where
Hmm.
they split off as like, Leslie was actually really, really not only brilliant, but also just a great leader. Like again, she was so good at planning and organizing that she had all their
Yeah.
birthdays memorized and had the gifts and knew what to get them. Like she was just that good, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And Michael was endearing too, but I think what they I heard Jenna Fisher shared about this in her podcast about like how like um, the one thing that actually helped The Office out a lot was, you know, what we were sold on is like Michael Scott is a terrible manager, but he's an expert salesman. Like if
Yeah.
he was terrible
Yeah.
at sales, the show probably wouldn't have went well at all because
Yeah.
then it would have
Yep.
really fell on its face. And
Yeah.
I think with Leslie, she had to be an expert manager, an expert like politician, and it showed
Hmm.
that she was like, and that she was also trying to be really also some aspects like grassroots oriented, like really
Yeah.
connecting to community leaders and like really getting like involved with the people. Like she really like she was really just endearing, and that really took off from season three. You know,
Yeah.
whereas in the first two, you just kind of see like, okay, she's head over the parks department, or she's deputy director of the parks department, and it almost feels like how did she get this job and
Yeah.
it seemed but then you kind of like at season three get a sense of like, oh no, she's not only very qualified, she could go even further into political offices, which is her goal,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Yep. So I had a point I was gonna make, but it kind of gives away part of the list from later. So I'll make the point later when I'm talking about like the other show that kind of relates to this point. So okay, so that was your number 4, Parks and Rec. So we'll be able to move through because we're at 42 minutes right now, which
Okay.
doesn't seem like we've been doing this. But we can start to move through quicker because my number 3 is Parks and Recreation.
Ah,
so we already talked about it, so we can just move
nice.
forward. So we won't discuss it. My number 3 is Parks and Rec. So you can go ahead and jump to your number 3.
Parks and Rec. We get to the first overlap of this list. My number three is actually a show I'm rewatching now, and it's Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
Dude, this show, I forgot how funny and how connected I feel to some of these characters. Like Sheldon Cooper like he reminds me of another character from a show that we like together, and just like in terms of just the quirks, but also his brilliance,
Hmm.
like it just kind of
I already
matches
know who you're
very
talking
well.
about.
You know
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I really, it's like almost like a modernized version in that way, but it's
Yeah.
also, you know, it's its own thing. Like just these following four nerds around in Pasadena. Then you know, one gets connected to this beautiful woman like living across the hall, and then he
Hmm.
kind of gets adopted into this friend group, and then just shows their shenanigans and their nerddom come to life. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just silly, right? Like you just there's some silliness, there's some real. It also opens the conversation for some real dialogue that could be had around like mental health. Like if we look at it
Mm.
from a very like larger view, like in terms of like social
Sure.
anxiety, social awkwardness. But all in all, it's a comedy, and a comedy
Yeah.
is meant to just be a comedy at its length, and so. Yeah, I love Big Bang Theory. It is
So
hilarious.
I actually have never seen Big Bang Theory, believe it or not.
Ooh,
So
you're missing out. You're
I'm
missing
gonna put
out.
that one on I'm gonna put that one on my list because I trust your judgment on that. So I can't really add to because I haven't even seen like a episode at all. So is it on a streaming
It's
service?
on Max. It's on HBO Max.
Okay. Okay. So which I can't remember if I told you this, but I have HBO Max for free and I don't know how.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. You did tell me that. Somebody's paying.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully HBO isn't watching this podcast. They for sure are not. But uh, bro, it's crazy because so me
They'd
and
be
my
like,
sister and my
"Who's the
brother.
fine chasing?"
So I don't know if it had to do when they rebranded everything. You know, like they went from HBO Max to just Max or whatever.
Yeah.
So me, my sister, and my brother-in-law used to pay for it, like pay for an account, and it was I think my brother-in-law was the one. It was like under his like name and email and stuff. And then they were trying to like cut out some things in their budget or whatever, so we canceled it. And then like several months later at Christmas time a few years ago, my brother-in-law asked me, like we were all together for Christmas, and he was like, "Hey, like are you are you paying for HBO Max or whatever? Like, can you check your bank statement and stuff like that? And I was like, I checked, and I was like, no, like, I'm not paying for it. And I was like, I've never paid for it before, you know? And he was saying how like they cut it out and they double checked like all their things and are not paying for it, but we still have access to it. And that was like 2 years ago that we realized. So we've had it for like, I think going on 3 years. Like this upcoming Christmas, I think will be 3 years we've had it for free. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, one day maybe it will cut out.
HBO
But...
adjuster is gonna be like, let me look into this.
So, but okay, so I have it. So I have to check out Big Bang Theory. So okay, cool. So I feel like these last bit we're gonna be able to move through. So that was your number 3. Okay, so just to recap a little bit, my number 3 was Parks and Recreation. Your number 3 was Big Bang Theory. Okay,
Yes.
so another one we don't have to discuss is my number 2 is The Office. So, which we already discussed a bit because that was your OLI number 2. So, but one thing I will say, because I was waiting to say this because I didn't want to give away that The Office for me was ahead of Parks and Recreation. I go back and forth on those. So I have Parks and Rec 3 and The Office at 2, but I feel like they could be interchangeable because the way that I describe it is I do think if I like, and again, I go back and forth on all these points. I think The Office is funnier overall, but I think Parks and Recreation has more funny characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think like Michael Scott and Dwight and Jim, like the chemistry they have is like top tier and they're hilarious. But I feel like in Parks and Recreation, but after those 3, it's like there's characters that have moments, right? Like I think like Kevin has his moments and Pam has her moments or whatever. Stanley has his moments, but it's like moments, you know, and it's several moments. But I think like in Parks and Rec, it's like Leslie, Ben, Andy, April, Ron Swanson, like Tom, like they all are hilarious through the entire show. You know what I mean? Donna, like it's just all of them, man, like all of them. And then also in The Office, I feel like you have these dud characters in my opinion. Like I'm sure there's somebody out there that loves them, but you have like Meredith is like not very funny to me at all. And then you have like, you know, Todd Packer, who it's like, oh, like every time he's in a scene, I'm like, oh, get this guy out. Like why did they cast him in this show? You know, but in Parks and Rec,
like Daryl hits.
Yeah. Daryl hits. So, but in Parks and Rec, like I can't think of one character that like I absolutely hate. Because even the character that's like the nemesis character is hilarious though, like Jeremy Jam. Like
Jeremy Jam is so funny.
But he's so much better than like Todd Packer. You know what I mean?
Also, or Jam is so funny. Oh my god.
Yeah. Boom! You just got jammed.
I have to say this joke because R.I.P. to the gentleman who just lost his life, who played Ken Hotate.
Yeah.
But man,
tragic
like,
story.
That scene where you know they are meeting with the Wamapoke and Jeremy Jam was shown to like be doing some like backstore deal and going back on his deal with Leslie Knope. So Ken Hotate was like. So like he's like, I don't like how you went back on your deal with Miss Knope. It reminds me of your ancestors taking the land from my ancestors. And so Leslie, so they work on a deal to like reshape this. And Leslie says, in honor of this newfound deal, I vote that we wear this authentic Wamapoke headdresses. Jeremy Jam says,
that's highly offensive.
No, that's highly offensive. And the kid says, does it, white man?
Man. Yeah.
Oh, that got me. That gets me every time. I watch it.
Oh.
He's like, no, gosh. It's not offensive. And then he just like puts it on.
So me and my sister the last like couple of days have actually been texting like random lines from Parks and Recreation. So I watched an episode yesterday and it was John Ralphio. So John Ralphio is another character that's hilarious to me. And so he it's when they're at yeah. So it's when they're at the Unity concert, like later in the show, and John Ralphio, I can't remember who they're talking to, but he pulls up his pant legs and he's like, boom, and he has 2 ankle monitors, like one on each ankle, and he's like, I got. And he goes, I got two monitors. He's like, the judge said it's the first time he's had to do that. And then he goes, your boy is a question on the bar exam. You heard? Oh, it had me rolling.
Man.
Oh my gosh, it had me rolling. And then there was another line from Andy where like Leslie's like him and Leslie are going somewhere, and he goes, don't worry, Leslie, I know first aid. And he's like, well, karate. And then Leslie's like, that's not the same thing. And he's like, it is if you do it right.
Oh man. Oh, that's funny.
That show is so funny.
Now
when I start talking about it, I'm like, maybe Parks and Rec is better than the Office. It's like maybe I need to flip those. I don't know.
But honestly, man, I can put on Parks and Rec right now, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go through this. I'm gonna have me some good laughs.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so that is The Office. We ended up talking about Parks and Rec, but The Office is my number 2. Okay, so you're number 2.
Oh man, you're gonna hate me, but my number 2 is the one that you would think is gonna be my number 1, and that is Frasier.
No, you did not. You just ruined the whole podcast. I thought we were gonna. I'm disappointed in you. Genuinely. Number 2.
Well, the funny thing was, and we'll talk about it when we get to you too, because it was very hard because my number 1 is more of like a childhood thing too.
Okay.
So I had to.
I don't care. I'm still mad at you.
It really, it's more like Frasier's 1B, 1A. This is a cop-out answer. Nobody likes cop-outs, but so I have to stamp my flag. I was like, but Frasier, number 2. And the character that came up that Sheldon relates to is Dr. Niles Crane. It's very much like very similar, like cadence of speech, like very, very similar writing. Like yeah. Except Niles obviously is not as socially awkward, but they're very, very similar.
Yeah. Wow, you ruined I thought the number 1 reveal was gonna be together.
The funny thing is, I knew this was gonna be your top, and I was like, man, Frasier is up there for me. I knew this was gonna be your top, but I'm like,
okay, well, for the sake of
Chase is. As y'all can see, Chase is so hurt right now. He was like, bro, we're supposed to be number 1 together. I'm like, I know,
people watching, like, when he says that, I'm genuinely hurt. Like, I'm genuinely hurt. Oh, gosh, I'm so disappointed in you. I don't know if I've ever been more disappointed. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just like, yeah, I just ripped your heart out, man. No, it was hard. It was hard, but I got to go with Frasier. Frasier's number 2 for me.
Jordan shared about him deciding to leave the church a couple episodes ago. I think I'm more disappointed now than I was then. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. Oh, okay. Well, okay.
He's like, he stopped loving Jesus, but you know what? No, Frasier.
Totally kidding, everyone. Totally kidding. Okay, so just for the sake of conversation, because we could talk about Frasier a lot more, what's your number 1? Because clearly my number 1 is Frasier. So what's your number 1?
My number 1.
And go ahead and discuss it, and then we'll go back to Frasier.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I knew that was what it was going to be. As soon as you said it was a childhood thing, because I actually, funny enough, when you said The Last of Us for your number 5, I know it's not a video game, but I was thinking, and I was like, oh man, Avatar might be low key like somewhere in this, like maybe not top 5, but like OLI kind of thing, because that show
for me
is dope.
For me, the rewatchability, like every now and then I'll throw an episode up of Avatar. It's like when I go on plane rides, like that's when I go on planes, like I said plane rides, I sound like a little kid. But when I go on planes, man, like that's the show I download episodes to watch, because I don't like flying, but that show just brings me back. Like it helps like calm the anxiety with flying. Man, like I love the characters that are written into that, like Toph, Sokka, Katara, and like I love the trajectory of them all. Iroh is dope. Like it is as a show.
That
I'm
show
like,
is
man,
fire.
That show is so dope. It is fire.
It is so
fire.
good.
And the Fire Nation attacked. Like that's just how it goes.
And you watch it while you're flying, so.
But it was
that show.
So you can't even be that upset at me.
I mean, no, I'm still upset. But that show actually, because I am not an anime person, right? And I know that that's like borderline anime. Like I know it's like Pokemon. That people consider Pokemon an anime or not. But so when I first moved to Orlando, like right when I moved there, I think when we were talking about, I was telling a story about Orlando a couple episodes ago, and I was talking about how the first summer I was there, it was just me and Chip. Which my just a little quick funny story is that my friend Chip, who I lived with that year, Chip is his nickname because his real name is Frito.
That's right.
So his government name, is Frito Shermfont. So we called him Chip because his name's Frito. So anyways, so right when I moved to Orlando, it was just Chip and I, and he was like, "Oh, bro, I'm watching through this show. Do you want to watch it with me?" And I was like, "What show is it?" And he was like, "Oh, it's Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's this cartoon." And I was like, I don't know, bro. It sounds kind of lame. And then I was like, I just moved in, so I was like, all right, let me get some bonding time with my new roomie, And so I started watching. And I was like, this show is unbelievable. It's so good.
Dog. Yeah,
it is really, really, really good. So I can't be that mad at you. But yeah, so Frasier's my number one. Avatar's The Last Airbender. But we're almost at an hour. We might have to do a whole episode where we just talk about Frasier. You know what we could do is, I know a couple weeks ago you said like we need to do an episode where we talk through like the things that I liked about Seattle when I was out there.
Oh,
so
heck yeah.
Maybe the next palate cleanser episode in a few weeks, we can talk through the trip and talk about Frasier. And we could actually like record it next, but then I'll wait to put it out, for the next palate cleanser. But yeah, so cuz I'm sure we could spend 24 hours talking about Frasier for sure.
Yes, we can.
So
yes, we can.
But yeah. Okay, so just to wrap up, I'm going to walk back through my list and then walk back through Jordan's list, and then we'll call it an episode. Okay, so my OLI number 1 was Better Call Saul. My OLI number 2 was Dexter. My number 5 was The Good Place. 4 was Lost. 3, Parks and Rec. 2, The Office. And 1, Frasier. And for Jordan, his OLIs were Curb Your Enthusiasm and The Office. Number 5 was The Last of Us. Number 4 was Parks and Recreation. Number 3 was The Big Bang Theory. Number 2 was Frasier. And number 1 and number 1 and number 1 was Avatar. And number 1 was
I can hear the disappointment in your voice.
And Avatar: The Last Airbender, I guess, whatever is number 1. No, that's a solid list. So, okay, this was fun, man. So, hopefully everyone stuck around. And again, drop in the comments what either your favorite show, if you just have one favorite show, or if you have a top 5, you want to think through a top 5, please let us know. We'd love to look through. Maybe we'll read some off. If we get some comments, we'll read some off to start the show next week. But thank you again for joining us. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends if you're enjoying the podcast. We do, next episode, I'll talk about this a little bit more, but we do have a page for anyone that's really loving the podcast and wants to support us, where you can give a little donation. We definitely are not asking that people do that, but if you really are enjoying the show, we'd love to use some of those donations just to like get another one of these mics for Jordan, upgrade a little bit just so that the experience for you all is better. And eventually, we're hoping that, we can make a little side money from this through TikTok, through YouTube or whatever. But the donations page is just for things to upgrade equipment and things of that nature. And so I'll make sure to share that website with you next week. And again, we definitely are not asking that you do it unless you really feel like you want to. So if you're enjoying it and you want to hear it more, it would definitely help us out to be able to better the quality of the show. So thanks for joining us in with Denoux featuring Jordan Shannon, and we'll see you next week. Signing off.
We out.